Hey guys, MichaelBtheGameGenie here, and on today's video, I wanted to have a little bit of fun and take a look back at all the Arcade1Up and home arcades I got in 2022 and why I got them, and I'll tell you more about it right after this. So guys, I thought I would do a little bit of a different video today and actually take a look back at all the Arcade1Up and home arcades I got in 2022. I'm getting ready to make my beginning of the year video on my New Year's gaming resolutions on what my gaming plan is this year, and I thought it would be fun to look back at all the arcades and Arcade1Up home arcade products I got in 2022 to see how it fit in with my gaming resolutions last year. You might remember I did a live stream with Justin where I talked about 2022 was going to be a different year. I wasn't going to buy as much Arcade1Up and I was planning on getting a real pinball. Well, for those of you who've been following along, you know that plan fell apart and I ended up getting a bunch of Arcade1Up products, but it's not as simple as it seems because there is parts of my New Year's resolution that were true and so many that weren't. So anyways guys, before we get started and before we talk about it, I want to say thank you so much for checking out this video. Always appreciate the support guys, and if this is your first time to the channel, you like what you see, go ahead, subscribe, click the bell for notifications and all that YouTube stuff. So guys, I want to start off with what was an absolute right out of the gate failure, but something I was really excited for was the Arcade1Up Terminator 2 cabinet, and this is the first cabinet of 2022 I bought. I had already told my wife at this point that I was going to back off from buying home arcades and Arcade1Ups for a while, but this is one I specifically had requested from Arcade1Up. I did a video earlier in 2021 where I talked about the cabinets they could make, and I said Terminator 2 would just be such a absolute masterpiece for them. Of course, when they did it, it wasn't as good as I hoped. It only had one game. It didn't have arcade accurate controls. There was a lot of problems with it, but I figured, hey, this is the Terminator 2 we're going to get. This is one of the most iconic arcade games from when I was growing up. If there was one gun game I would want, it would probably be this. So Terminator 2 was very exciting, and of course they had one in store in Best Buy, and I couldn't help myself. I picked it up, but I promised my wife, I said, listen, Lair, I promise after this one, this will be the last one I buy this year. And boy, did I break that promise. But I also did keep it true to some extent. So Terminator 2, I bought early January as soon as it came out, and this was the first purchase I made of 2022, and one I'm still happy with. Sure, it only has one game. Sure, it's not perfect, but man, oh man, I dig this arcade cabinet. And for those of you that managed to get it for $2.99 US, man, I think you got a steal. So guys, I know I picked up a ton of arcade cabinets last year, but believe it or not, after Terminator, I did keep my promise to my wife a little bit. There was a long lull before I bought anything else, and the next purchase may actually surprise some people. So guys, this one I had absolutely no intent on buying because it wasn't in any way arcade accurate, but there was something about it that I was always curious of, and that is the Pong pub table. When this first came out, this was $799 in Canada, and I thought that price was outrageous. Plus, of course, it didn't have that arcade-accurate form factor. It was a completely bonkers design in the pub table format, but the brick here in Canada ended up feeling the same pressure, I guess, that I was feeling, and the pub table wasn't selling, unfortunately. I don't know why. I mean, it's beautiful. It has that iconic 70s, 80s look that Atari and Pong brings to mind. However, it just wasn't a huge popular seller. So the brick here in Canada put it on clearance for $4.99. And if there's one thing you guys know about me, I'm addicted to buying Arcade1Ups, and what becomes more complicated is when Arcade1Ups go on sale, and I have a very hard time saying no to a sale price. So at that $4.99 price point, I believe it was April when this went on sale, so almost 4 months after I bought the Terminator cabinet, I finally succumbed to my addiction, to my love of buying these things, and I picked up the Pong pub table. And while all the things I said about it are true, it's not arcade accurate, it kind of doesn't make sense, I'm still very happy with it. It's got an excellent game lineup. It's a weird and wacky, configuration the way it works, but it's higher and much more comfortable than what they were selling with their cocktail tables. So I thought it was a cool format. The spinner works well. All the games are fun. Now, the only problem was I bought it to be the new pub table in my GenieCade, my actual Arcade1Up arcade room. However, it ended up being a lot bigger than the pub table I had. I just didn't think about that. So it ended up, unfortunately, not staying in the space because it was just a little bit too big. Next up is one that's a little bit strange because I actually didn't purchase this arcade. But what had happened is my buddy Mike Dalton, who's a huge home arcade fan, huge iiRcade fan, he actually ended up picking this one up and he had it in his collection, but he wasn't in love with it. And he told me that if I ever wanted to review it, I was free to take a loan of it. So lucky enough, Mike lent me his cabinet and I got to play it for a while, and even though I didn't have the arcade nostalgia other people had for Killer Instinct, I kind of fell in love with the cabinet. So I mentioned on my live stream, like, I knew he wanted my Capcom Legacy cab, and I said maybe we could work out some kind of trade. I figured I would give him the Capcom Legacy plus something else, and he was like, no, I'll just take the Capcom Legacy and you can have Killer Instinct. So, through that incredible deal that he gave me, I ended up getting the Killer Instinct 3/4 scale arcade machine. And other than the fact this didn't have spectate mode, this was pretty awesome. They did a very good job with this. Not as good as the later cabinets that would come later in the year, like the Mortal Kombat 30th form factor, but it was really, really, really cool. Now, unfortunately, this is the only cabinet that I got last year that I don't still have, as with the Pro cabinet coming out and my decision to buy that, it meant that I was going to say goodbye to the 3/4 scale cabinet. So it's the only one on this list that's no longer in my possession. Next up, guys, is another cabinet that I had no intention of buying, and that is the Ridge Racer cabinet. And when it came out, it was $800 plus here in Canada yet again. I said, wow, that price is crazy. I had just got my Outrun stand-up. I thought I only really needed one driving cabinet for my home arcade, so I wasn't going to get Ridge Racer. The biggest reason being that I didn't really associate Ridge Racer with the arcade. I associated it more with the PlayStation. That made sense to me. So I held off. I didn't buy Ridge Racer when it originally came out, and I waited and I waited and I waited. And for one of the very first times with one of their new arcade releases from Arcade1Up, I waited long enough to see it go on sale. It dropped by a little over $200 and went on sale for $6.99 Canadian. And I asked my wife, I said, this cabinet's on sale. I know I haven't bought one in a while. Would it be cool if I picked it up? And she gave me the thumbs up, so I went and picked up Ridge Racer. I brought it home, and, I was excited to try it out. So many of my friends said they loved the Ridge Racer cabinet. I was excited to see what the force feedback was like on the wheel, and I got it home, and I ended up absolutely falling in love with it. As much as I love classic 80s arcade games, there's something different about the racers, and the more modern you get with the more advanced graphics, makes it just for some reason a little bit more exciting. So Ridge Racer has become one of my favorite arcades in my home arcade right now, and I know there's a mod coming up. I don't know if I want to do it because I just love the stock game so much. I'm also a big stock guy. So Ridge Racer, huge surprise for me, one of my favorite arcades in the house, and I'm so glad I got it on sale. Next up is actually a cabinet that's the first non-Arcade1Up home arcade product on this list. It was one of my most anticipated purchases of 2023. I covered the announcement for it from CES last year, the iiRcade Gold Edition. This is an upgraded version of the original iiRcade. Now, it's had the same hardware and could play the same games, but it was a significant upgrade for me in terms of it having the new sound system, the new form factor, and the marquee, and I really like shit like that. At first, I was hesitant on whether or not I was going to purchase this. I did purchase this out of my own money because the upgrade is very slight. It's more of an aesthetic upgrade than anything else, and the ability to add in your USB cables and stuff like that. However, I did decide that the upgrade was significant enough that I wanted to pick it up. I wanted to spend the money and see what the new experience was like, and so far I'm very happy with it. Now, if you have a standard iiRcade, you're just as good. This is more of like a impressive aesthetic upgrade than anything else. I'll keep saying that. Both versions are fine. The USB in the front and the ability to use external controls, especially light guns for games that are hopefully coming out in the future, was a huge plus for me. Plus, I like the form factor, the sound. I did a full review of it. You can go check it out. I like the iiRcade. I know it's not for everybody, but for me, I liked it enough. I wanted to do the upgrade and have this version in my home. Now, probably one of my biggest surprise additions to my home arcade in 2022 was, in fact, the NBA Jam Shaq Edition XL cabinet, because I had shit on this thing so much for the fact that I didn't like the artwork and I was concerned about the screen included. But an opportunity came up from Arcade1Up to pick one up at a discounted price for the purpose of reviews, and I said, screw it. I want to see what the XL cabinets are all about, especially this one, because it looks like it was slightly better than the offering from Golden Tee. So I received the cabinet, put it together, and I fell in love with the form factor. The things I said about the screen initially, yeah, they turned out to be true. This is a TN monitor with edge-lit sources, and it's only good from certain viewing angles. Other viewing angles from a distance and stuff are not good. Directly in front of the cabinet, you will absolutely enjoy it, and you can sit on a stool and play it well. It's got a great 19-inch 5x4 monitor, and when I say great, I mean it's great directly in front of it, but of course there is washout from certain angles and distances. But what I really fell in love with was the form factor and the bigger size of the XL cabinets. It made me believe this is what Arcade1Up should have been doing all along, and I fell in love with the XL form factor. Going forward, this is what I want to buy more of. This is what I want to see more of from Arcade1Up. I hope they continue to make XL cabinets, because I'm developing a bit of an XL and Pro collection right now because of how much I like this cabinet. At the same time that I had the opportunity to get the NBA Jam XL Shaq Edition, I also had an opportunity to pick up Golden Tee 3D discounted, and I decided to jump in on that as well. I mean, if I'm going to get one XL cab, I'm going to try the other. This is actually footage from me over to my buddy Mike Dalton's house. You can see Mike there in the background in his chair, and I checked out the Golden Tee 3D, and I wasn't in love initially with the screen. As you can notice, I'm playing on a stool, and unfortunately, where there is such an angle on this screen where NBA Jam is more straight up, the screen issues are much more present with this edge-lit TN monitor. But luckily, when I got the cabinet home and I started playing with it, I noticed while standing in front of it, I was having a much better play experience. The screen on this is god-awful, but the form factor, the sound, those speaker grills, the build of the cabinet is absolutely awesome, and I highly recommend it. It's just such a shame they put this screen in these two cabinets, but I'm very happy with my Golden Tee 3D XL cabinet as well. And now we come to the first Arcade1Up cabinet I bought last year at full MSRP after Terminator 2, which was the Mortal Kombat 30th anniversary cabinet. I very stupidly sold my Mortal Kombat Midway Legacy cabinet very early on because I knew I was getting this cab. I love the look of it. I love the thought of it. But I did that before I realized this was also going to have that edge-lit TN monitor. You can see from this angle that you currently see on screen, it's not that bad. But when you move to the other side, it's absolutely horrendous. A lot of people will remember I did a live stream playing this cabinet, and the only sensible place to put the camera was on the other side, and the screen just looked the shits. Unfortunately, I was a little bit unhappy with my purchase. I wish I had waited too, because if I wasn't so enthusiastic to buy this right away, these actually went on sale. Original MSRP here in Canada was $6.49. Over the holidays, this went all the way down to $4.99, so I could have saved an additional $150 if I had just waited a little bit longer. And really, the only reason I'm really super disappointed is the fact that the cabinet has that awful TN monitor. The rest of the cabinet is awesome. Only other small point I'd like to put in, of course, it's missing the white buttons, and I wish it had spectate mode and had the same online fighting features that other cabinets such as Killer Instinct Now and, of course, Street Fighter, Big Blue, and Marvel vs. Capcom had. So that's my big complaints with this cabinet. Next up is a cabinet. Believe it or not, I said I wouldn't buy yet. And I didn't think I would actually get an opportunity to buy. I've had this cabinet since the beginning of November. I haven't shot any footage on it yet, so I'm actually using Kong's video. Kong's or else. Thank you so much for letting me steal this for the purpose of my video. I haven't done a live stream. I haven't done a review of this yet because I'm waiting until the online for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 comes out. You can't really do a review until all the features are out, other than doing a review and saying it sucks that the feature's not out yet. So I've been patiently waiting for Arcade1Up, for several months now to put the online for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 out. But I did pick up the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet. I said I wasn't going to buy this unless I could pick it up on a sale. And I talked about the FOMO that was created in the US as this was a limited release and it sold out like immediately. So I didn't think there was that much of a chance it would go on sale here in Canada because I assumed that very few units were shipped here and it would be a similar demand. Lo and behold, like pretty much right away, while I was actually in Ottawa, meeting up with friends and going checking out pinball places, the Bay of all places, Hudson's Bay Company, actually put this cabinet on sale for $160 off. Like, we're talking about 1 week after its release here in Canada. And I was, kind of flummoxed. And I was like, $160 off, brand new cab. I did want to upgrade from the X-Men vs. Street Fighter I already had because obviously this didn't have a traditional Capcom shape, so I wasn't going to get that arcade aesthetic. And the side artwork isn't from the arcade at all because this was a conversion kit, so there's no side artwork. So there's a lot of things I didn't love about the cabinet, but I do love that form factor. Like I said, the Mortal Kombat 30th form factor was awesome, so I was excited about being able to play this on this. Plus, they had the best of all worlds of both X-Men vs. Street Fighter and the Marvel vs. Capcom, those two cabs combined. So I miss my Marvel superheroes cabinet and that game. I really wish this had Punisher, but unfortunately it didn't. And $160 that early on was enough of an emphasis to get me to jump and pick this cabinet up so I could replace X-Men vs. Street Fighter with a more robust game lineup. Now, hopefully they eventually get the online working for this so I can get my review done. Certainly not in a timely manner. Anyways, I've done no coverage. I haven't talked about it that much, but I have Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Now, this is one I didn't even know if I was going to include on this list because I'm not including mini arcades like, nothing from Numbskull or nothing from Replicade. This is mainly like the bigger stuff you would put in your arcade, 3/4 scale and up. But I did want to talk about the Legends Pinball Micro because this is one of the most exciting products I thought AtGames was putting out this year. I was lucky enough that they sent one out for me for the purpose of review, and I gotta say I'm very impressed with this. For people that want a pinball experience that's just as good as the Legends Pinball, literally does everything the big, more expensive Legends Pinball does, you can get it in a more smaller form factor that if you don't have the footprint or real estate in your house to have the giant 32-inch screen Legends Pinball, maybe this is something that would work for you, a little tabletop version. And like I said, it does everything the other pinball does. You have that little tiny screen, and when I say little tiny, I think it's still like 18-inch screen. It's still 1080p, 60 frames per second. Like, the pinball looks great on it. You still have the ability to add a VIBS board, connect to PC, and play everything from Pinball FX to everything else. This is a powerful little machine. Now, in the US, I think it's $449. Usually when AtGames have their sale, you can get it for as low as $349. I'd say jump on this if you have the opportunity. Hopefully in Canada we'll get this soon. However, I will tell you, I've heard the price point is going to be a little high at $649. So I don't know at that point. I mean, the regular pinball here is $11.99. So it's about half the price of the full-size pinball. So if you want to spend half the price and you don't have room for the full-size pinball here in Canada, maybe this will be an option for you. But anyways, Legends Pinball Micro, it's really cool. Check it out. Next up is my most anticipated Arcade1Up product of 2022. You guys know I love when they redo the classics, and especially when they pay so much attention to detail with the original cabinet design, and they do a really good job. They try really hard. The year before, it was probably Tron. Before that, Star Wars. This is up there, as I said in my review, with the Mount Rushmore of Arcade1Up cabinets from a design perspective, aesthetic perspective. Dragon's Lair was such a cool cabinet from Arcade1Up, and I was lucky enough that not Arcade1Up, but the Brick actually sent me this cabinet for the purpose of review, so I could actually put a video up. I do a lot of stuff with the Brick. I mentioned their sales and stuff like that, and I guess they thought I would be a good person to help move some of these cabinets, so they sent it out for me for review, and I'm in love with the cabinet. I will say I do understand that there's an audio glitch in the game later on, and people are very unhappy with that. Hopefully Arcade1Up at some point addresses this with some kind of update, but for me, who's less skilled than other people, and just playing this arcade for the first time and having that the atmosphere of the arcade in my home arcade in the 3/4 scale, seeing the attract mode playing while I'm walking by all my arcades, it's just unreal to me that I have it. Is it perfect? No, it's a little bit short. I mentioned the audio glitch, but man, what a cool arcade. I'm very happy with this one. One of my favorite editions. And here's the other thing. Like, I already had Dragon's Lair on my arcade, and I played it from time to time, and I really liked the game, but it's surprising how much more I like it when it's in this form factor and I'm playing it and I get that nostalgia from the original game. So I'm in love with Dragon's Lair. It's actually currently on sale as of right now at the Brick for $4.99, $300 off. Sale went up this morning, so if you have been sitting wondering whether or not you should pick up Dragon's Lair, great time to pick it up from the Brick right now. $4.99, steal of a deal in my opinion, and one of the coolest arcades you can add to your game room or home arcade from Arcade1Up. And guys, last but not least, this one truly surprised me. Honestly, man, when they announced the lineup coming out this year, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and NFL Blitz, the two big games they were releasing, I knew there was a chance I'd get Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but I said the one game I definitely wasn't going to get unless it went on ridiculous sale price was NFL Blitz. And I had no intention to get it. I hated the fact that they basically decided to do whatever they wanted with the side art and didn't use the original side art. I hated the fact that, it wasn't going to have the original arcade ROMs and they were doing their own reworked ROMs. And then, of course, they had the issue with the online. So all those things played against it, but I couldn't help but think about all the fun I had playing with my friends when we were in Chicago back in September. It was a lot of fun to play multiplayer. Of course, we were drinking, we were excited to see each other for the first time, so maybe that played into it, but again, that always weighed on my mind, and of course my addiction for seemingly buying every single Arcade1Up product. But what happened was, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, this cabinet came out in Canada, and I guess the interest wasn't there through pre-orders that they anticipated. So, like a week after this came out here in Canada, it immediately went up on Boxing Day sale for $599. Now, I was still hesitant at that time. I didn't rush and get it at the sale price. I managed to contain myself for a couple days. That is until Travis MCP, who you might be following, I guess he's involved in the beta tester program with Arcade1Up, started to put out some message that online for Blitz was coming. And of course, at that point, I had also heard a rumor that even though it was only $5.99 right now, what had happened was another YouTuber by the name of Steve V's Man Cave Arcade had been asking him some questions about, hey, I'm really interested in this cab. It's $5.99 now. Any chance it'll go any lower, maybe $4.99? And a rumor started swirling around that maybe it would even go additionally cheaper as of Boxing Day. So with those rumors out there that I could buy this cabinet for $300 off, like 2 weeks after it came out here in Canada, and the online was going to be working and I'd be able to play with my friends, I said, screw it. I couldn't help myself anymore, and I picked it up. And honestly, I know it's not the original arcade ROM. I know it doesn't have the original arcade art. That's why it's not down in my GenieCade. I have it up here in my office. But I've been absolutely having a blast just playing Blitz. Football is so fun. This is such a fun version of it. I wish it was more arcade accurate in more ways than one. I wish it had the art. I wish it had the original ROM with the late hits and all that stuff. But I will tell you, at that discounted price, being able to play online with friends, the online experience is great. I'm really enjoying that. Very happy I picked up Blitz. Will it ever end up in my GenieCade or in my third arcade that I have open now? I don't know. Maybe after I get some artwork for it and make it look more like the original cabinet. We'll see. But anyways, Blitz, another huge surprise. Both those cabinets, I said I'm not going to buy either one unless they go on sale. I figured maybe in a year's time. I did not think, literally like weeks after their release here in Canada, I'd be able to pick them up on sale. But yet somehow I did. So that's right, guys. In a year where I said I wasn't going to get anything, I wasn't going to add anything more to my collection. I had a bunch of stuff I already liked. I was ready to slow down, save some money to get pinball. I ended up adding 11 more products to my home arcade collection and a whole nother room somehow that somehow I'm not divorced from. Now going forward, will I keep buying Arcade1Up and home arcade products at the pace I've been doing? I don't know. I guess we'll need another video for that. But I will tell you, we're already into 2023, and I may have already bought 2 products in 2022 that I never got till 2023 that I'm not going to include on this list. We'll talk about it next year. But one was full, super full price, and the other one was a crazy sale that I couldn't say no to. So anyways, guys, that's the arcades, home arcades I picked up in 2022. Let me know in the comments, do you think I'm crazy? Do you think what I picked up was essential? Cool cabinets? Do you think that the deals I got were justifiable for picking them up? And more than anything else, I'd like to see other people's make videos similar to this and let me know what you got last year and added to your home arcade collection or home arcade. Anyways, guys, thank you so very much for watching. This is Michael B. the Game Genie. I'll talk to you guys next time.